Let's rock it! 335. Yep, I'm here for my review of Power Rangers in Space! The 6th season of the Power Ranger franchise, well, it was supposed to be the last season of Power Rangers in America. That's why Turbo was so bad it almost canceled this franchise, but In Space saved it. How good was In Space? Well, I'm about to give you my thoughts on that. In Space starts with the two-part From Out of Nowhere, where we see the United Alliance of Evil, where all the villains of the series are here. Lord Zed and Rita, the Machine Empire, Master Vile, Captain Havoc, and Divatox, and all that. And they're having a party or something because Dark Spectre has captured Zordon. But Dark Spectre finds that none of the people are good enough to lead the search for Zord, or the finds or something about this. I don't know what this is all about. But anyway, we're introduced to the new villain of the season, Astronema, who wears a skin-tight black leather costume, which, for a kid's show where they really trying to sex this up, I mean, this is a kid's show here. Yeah, but whatever. Anyway, Astronema also brings us to our foot soldiers for the season, the Quantrons, which are a step up from the Piranatrons, but that's not saying much, because the Putties are a step up from the Piranatrons. In fact, the Tingus are a step up from the Piranatrons. Okay. But we also see a hooded figure in red, who, when it comes off, it's a Red Ranger. A morphed Red Ranger, but we'll find out who he is later. Meanwhile, the Turbo Rangers are in space, and they've come aboard this megaship, which we later find out is called the Astro Megaship. And while they examine it, they're introduced to Deca, the artificial AI of the ship. During this time, Alpha 6 is speaking gibberish, which is a step up from Turbo, where he spoke jive and all that. But the Rangers, as the episode ends, are fighting off the Quantrons. That brings us into part 2, where the Red Ranger helps the Power Rangers fight off Astronema and the Quantrons, and then demorphs, and we find out he's a human from the planet KO-35, named Andros. Named Andros. Andros is at first reluctant because he says he works alone and he's reluctant to have the Rangers help. But Deca eventually makes him realize that he does need the help, so he gives the Rangers their Astromorphers, and the Space Rangers are born. Interesting notes here are TJ goes from red to blue, and Carlos goes from green to black. Cassie and Ashley stay yellow and pink, respectively. The Space Rangers defeat the Astronema and Quantrons. Also, during this episode, Bulk and Skull become a trio with a comic relief person named Professor Phenomenus. They become a very good trio, not yet, but, you know, so, yeah. So then, in the episode Save Our Ship, we get introduced to another villain for the season, Ecliptor. A very noble villain who believes in chivalry and nobility and won't attack from behind or stuff like that. The Rangers barely beat Ecliptor with the Astro Megaship, which is a two-part the Astro Megazord is a two-part Megazord. The Astro Megaship and the Space Shuttle from the SATA. So, I'll get into that at the end of this review. A lot of filler episodes, but there is, besides the Sorcerer's Dawn, there's another underlying storyline of this season. It's the Andros' search for his lost sister, who was kidnapped in their youth. A lot of that introduces us to the villain Darkonda. Darkonda is just a guy who wants basically to overthrow Dark Spectre. But the Power Rangers defeat him multiple times. In fact, we find out he has 9 lives. Or, we find out he has multiple lives, so it makes you wonder, why didn't he just why doesn't he just hit continue after he dies? So, yeah. But then we also end up with, the Silver Ranger is introduced, and he is Andros' best friend named Zane. However, originally he can only morph for 2.5 minutes because he was in a chronogenically induced sleep for so long that he that his powers need to recharge, and he needs a condensed strike of electricity to recharge his morpher. So he goes out and finds a lightning storm and charges his morpher, which allows him to morph fully and control his morphing. Zane disappears for a little bit because he helps some rebels on KO-35 while the Rangers continue their thing. The Rangers eventually find the Mega Voyager, which is another Megazord, mixed with that, plus the Delta Megazord, plus the Astro Megazord. So we have 3 Megazords here. The Delta Megazord, of course, can be controlled by Andros by remote control. There is a third option on here, which Andros says he's never touched, but we find out later what that does. After all this, Zane eventually returns with a Zord called the Mega Winger to help the Rangers defeat a monster. And then we get the Psycho Ranger saga, which is a very good thing that, quite frankly, was tried in Season 2, but executed very poorly. A team of evil Power Rangers, but in the case of the Psychos, they're monsters, but they know all the Ranger abilities. And this is a very good idea. It leads to how are the Rangers going to defeat the Psychos? Well, to get rid of Psycho Pink, they use a thing of a rift between the Psycho Pink and Psycho Yellow, as well as Cassie and Ashley, and that helps them defeat Psycho Pink. Then Psycho Blue falls when TJ comes up with this idea to paint all the Power Rangers blue. And it helps the Power Rangers defeat Psycho Blue. Psycho Red, Yellow, and Black then realize that they can figure out the Power Rangers by their voices and disguise themselves as human to try to find them. The Rangers eventually defeat all the Psychos, but the Psychos are not completely gone because they're ghosts. So they come back and Astronomer's got this data card thing in the Lost City that she's turning everyone into data cards, and she's going to turn it and use those data cards to make everyone monsters. The Psychos mess this up by standing there and becoming the data themselves, and the Rangers again use that and have Zane put the Psychos back into data cards. And that's what appears to be the end of the Psycho Rangers. But this is Power Rangers, and they'll probably be back. In fact, they are back next season, but I'll get into that when I get into that. But I'll get into that with the next review in this series. So, now, the one flaw in the Psycho Ranger saga is a filler episode called Carlos on Call, in which a little girl finds out that Carlos is the Black Ranger, and basically blackmails him into hanging out with her, or she'll tell everyone he's the Black Ranger. But the season ends with, quite frankly, one of the best finales I've seen watching the first 6 seasons of the Power Rangers. It's called Countdown to Destruction, Parts 1 and 2. In Countdown to Destruction, Astronomer has taken over the Earth, and if the Power Rangers do not reveal themselves and turn themselves over, they will enslave Earth or something like that. And Andros has found Zordon, but Zordon wants Andros to destroy him. Now, at this time, the city of Angel Grove is wondering are the Power Rangers going to let them down, where Bulk says that the Rangers have always been there for them, we need to give them a chance. The next day, Astronomer comes, and Bulk comes up with this thing where Bulk says he's the Blue Ranger, Skull says he's the Black Ranger, Phenomena says he's the Red Ranger, and 3 civilians say they're the Pink, Yellow, and Silver Rangers. But this leads to the Rangers morphing in public for the very first time ever. For the very first time ever. So, for the first time ever. And they fight off Astronomer and the Quantrons. As I said, Andros has found Zordon, but Ecliptor's in his way. Zordon says that the only way that the Rangers can fully win this fight is for Andros to destroy his plasma tube, thus killing Zordon. Andros is reluctant at first, but then he realizes for the sake of the world, he has to destroy the tube. And he does, and Zordon releases a Destructo Wave, which destroys all evil. It makes Ecliptor dust. It gets rid of Elgar finally. That's good. Bye-bye. You will not be missed. It turns Zedenry to human and they dance. It turns Divatox human, and she looks an awful lot like Demetria. Let's just say that. It destroys the Machine Empire. And it kills Astronomer, but then Andros, because he had found out that Astronomer is his long-lost sister, Corone, kidnapped by Darkonda a long time ago. But Andros' tears, I guess, bring Corone back. So, magic tears from KO35. The one flaw in an otherwise very good finale. So, yeah. Andros is the only new Ranger I have to give a thought about. Andros is one of these what I call wishy-washy Red Rangers, because a lot of time he thinks with his heart and not his head, and it puts the Rangers in a lot of trouble sometimes. He wasn't bad, but I would have preferred TJ to stay Red. That's my personal opinion. Bulk and Skull reached their 5 seasons of build have built up to everything they do in this season, and it worked. Phenomenals was a very good way to use Bulk and Skull because they played off of him very good. Astronomer was a very good villain, better than Divatox. She was not petty for the sake of being petty. In fact, everything she did made sense in the season. That's far better than Divatox ever in Turbo. Elgar was his annoying self. I'm not going to go into him. The Quantrons were very good foot soldiers because they at least looked menacing and had a very menacing robotic voice. Ecliptor, though, is by far one of the single best written villains in the history of Power Rangers, because while he fought the Rangers, Ecliptor's one of these characters who's very noble, and really only fought the Rangers because they threatened Astronomer, who Ecliptor thought is his daughter. Now, this brings me to a point that Ecliptor should have been saved, because thinking of Astronomer as his daughter makes you know that Ecliptor has a sense of good in him with a heart, and that he should not have been destroyed by Zordon's Destructo Wave. All in all, though, In Space is a very good season. It definitely deserved like I said, it ended up saving Power Ranger franchise after the debacle of Turbo was nearly destroyed Power Rangers in America. So, those are my thoughts on Turbo. I will be back the next video in this series. So, yeah. That's the end of this video, and I'll see you next time when we go galactic in the Lost Galaxy. See you then.